Welcome to the Executive's Edge podcast. Discover what gives today's most successful executives their unique edge and propel your business to new heights.
Well, good afternoon, Erik and Travis. Welcome to the Executive Edge podcast. I'm Rafi Yardimi in Boston Sales Solutions. Looking forward to having the two of you guys with me on the podcast today to talk about a big topic here, which is hiring, developing, and growing high-performing teams in your organizations. So if we could first start, I'll ask both of you guys to introduce yourselves and a high-level overview of the organization and the companies that you lead. You're both really good, successful CEOs. And maybe I'll start with Travis walking us through your company, your background, and how long you've been in the business for.
Sure, great. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Looking forward to the conversation. So, my name's Travis McDowell, and I'm based out of the Midwest here in Winnemac, Indiana. And I have the privilege of leading a few different companies. One is Metal Fab Engineering, of which I'm the third generation owner of that. We do sheet metal fabrication, primarily contract manufacturing. We've also got a product manufacturing arm, and then we're getting into a third party management, service as well. So been here in the I've led the family business at Metal Fab since 2015, and so it's been terrific, been fun. Obviously ups and downs, and manufacturing in the United States is on a nice trajectory right now, but that hasn't always been the case. So. Love talking leadership as we are kind of reintroducing a generation to the joys and the great benefits that manufacturing can bring.
Outstanding, Travis. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Erik. And I think there's some similarities, a lot of synergies between both of you. I think Erik's also second, in your case, third generation owner of a business and succession planning. So I'll have Erik jump in and talk a little bit about his organization and how he's taken over from the prior generation as well.
Thank you, Rafi. So, my name's Erik Piasio, president of American Surgical Company. We're located in Salem, Massachusetts. We're a global medical device manufacturer, primarily focused on neurosurgery. And I've been here 15 years, and like Rafi alluded to, a little bit of family background. My father was a serial entrepreneur in the diagnostic space. My background was in biochemistry, working for gene therapy startups right out of school. And about 15 years ago, my father came to me and said, I'm looking at buying this company in Massachusetts. I need some help running it. And 26-year-old kid looking for something exciting to do, I took over, figured I'd only be here for a few years. And a decade and a half later, I'm still trying to figure things out. So it's been quite a run. We're in actually quite a growth phase right now, and every day is extremely exciting.
Excellent. And I have the pleasure of working with Erik on a regular basis. Erik is one of the clients that I work with and help in a sales leadership role. So we've seen some great growth. I think, Erik, tell us a little bit about your first quarter. I think there's a lot to be said about the Q1 records that you've set this year.
Yeah. I mean, the company's been around since 1986, and really from 1986 until the acquisition in 2009, it was run as a lifestyle business. The previous owner had a nice little consistent profit every year, niche market, high barriers to entry, so very few competitors. And really, after we took over, we've been trying to figure out, all right, how do we take this company with this great foundation and figure out how to grow it into something truly special? And really over the last couple of years, things have started to click. And I think fundamentally, it's because we finally have the right people on the bus and the culture is humming. And we had our banner Q1, and it looks like we're going to have a banner Q2. So we're growing at close to 30% year over year. And yeah, Rafi has been an amazing help. So thank you.
Thank you, Erik. You know what? While we're on that topic, I know both of you guys, both of your businesses are running on a platform and an operating system called Enterprise Operating System, EOS. And from my experience with EOS and understanding that some components of this are really a strong leadership team. Many of the components of EOS comes in to say, all right, let's figure out what your leadership team looks like. There isn't really one of these one owner, one individual, and a whole bunch of people underneath. There's the visionary, integrator, and that leadership team. I'd love to hear a little bit, and maybe Erik, I can have you jump in for a second if you'd like to, and the good, the bad, the challenges, and any iterations that you've gone through as you've built out that world-class leadership team to get you to where you are right now.
So we've been running on EOS for just over 5 years, and we've turned over the leadership team probably 3 or 4 times in those 5 years. I think fundamentally, going back to what Jim Collins talks about, good to great, find the right people, get them on the bus, and then figure out where you're going to drive the bus. Honestly, when we started with EOS, I thought that I had the right team. Very quickly, I realized we did not. And today, there's only one member on the leadership team who was with me when we started the EOS journey. So any entrepreneur that wants to get things right from a growth perspective and really wants to run on EOS has got to make sure that they have the right people sitting around that table, and they have to be extremely intentional about finding those people. It's not a 1 or 2 year process. It is a multi-year process, and I think people need to be prepared for that if they are serious about taking the EOS journey.
Outstanding. And Erik, if you could, I believe you're using an implementer. Who's the implementer that's partnered with you, and how long have you had that partnership?
Yeah, our implementer is Nate Wolfson. And Nate, he's not only an amazing implementer, he's a great friend and confidant. He has helped me tremendously over the past 5 years. He's just a great resource for advice and guidance. And to be honest, I don't think we would be where we are today, growing at the rate we're growing at, without Nate's tutelage. So can't recommend him enough. And I do think anyone who's looking at doing EOS, make sure that the implementer is a good fit for you, especially as visionary and leader of the organization, and then your team.
Great. Travis, we'll go back over to you. Same question, and then dig in from there if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're not quite as far into EOS journey as Erik is. We're about 3 years in, yeah, EOS has been a game changer for us. The business had operated as a truly a small business, a founder run business for a long while, and we found EOS to be really the key that unlocked the type of growth that we were targeting, and I thought it landed perfect with the younger generation that we're trying to bring into the workforce. It gave them simplicity where it needed to be simple, and it gave them opportunity where they needed opportunity. And we're yet to find a challenge or a problem that we can't run through EOS and have EOS provide us an answer to that. And that's been really cool. Every time you think, there's no way that it's going to work, it answers the bell. I remember reading the book originally and thinking certain elements of it were too simple, that our problems were far more complex than that. And that's one of my favorite parts about it. We do engineering and problem solving for a living, and we get paid to make things simpler. And I got to give them credit; they've definitely figured that out. And in our world, we also used an implementer. Our implementer, his name's Andrew Williams. And he was a perfect fit for us. He was a business owner in the past, but not just that, he was a manufacturing business owner. So he spoke our language. He had fought our fight, and I would definitely echo what Erik said. Make sure you get that part right, because your people are going to question whether this is just the latest fad or the thing that we're just going to try this week because our visionary is chasing the latest shiny object. If you got the right implementer, they can show that no, this is a true investment in the future and it's good for everybody.
And Travis, you're sitting in the visionary seat or the integrator seat in the organization?
The visionary. I fit every one of the positives and negatives that are lined out in the book of the visionary. So I needed a strong integrator quickly, and was blessed to find one.
And have you had the same integrator for the last few years? Has that position evolved in your organization?
Actually, I had the integrator prior to implementing EOS. So I read the book. and then went to him with it, gave it to him, and said, "What do you think?" And he loved it. So yeah, he's been with me prior to the prior to implementing, and he's probably the biggest reason that we've had the success with EOS that we have.
Outstanding. And Travis, I can ask you. I mean, my role. I'm a fractional CRO, VP of Sales. I work with various companies and helping them build out their sales structure or grow the org. But I believe you're working with one of my colleagues there as well, and have invested in having a fractional help you out as well. Tell me a little bit about your sales organization, how that's ebbed and flowed, and what you're working on right now with your CRO.
Yeah, yeah, we did. Yeah, one of your one of your colleagues there, Rich Hodgkins, has come on in the last this year. And yeah, much like EOS, he's brought all of the, kind of the splintered partial things that we had in place or completely did not have in place. He's brought all that together, given us the ability to go out and be a market leader and just truly show why we're unique and show why why we're a good partner for, for all the folks that we're trying to connect with. And so he's really made it possible for us to go out and get true business development team members, really for the first time ever. Historically we've used manufacturers reps and things closer to that type of a structure, and having that in place now has allowed us to go out, get a business development manager, bring an inside sales rep in place, and actually have a true lead generation product that is constantly working for us in the background, and helping drive and spur growth.
Outstanding. Yeah, Rich Hodgkins is great. He's fantastic. He's right there in Indianapolis, and spent some time around Rich, and he's a fantastic business owner as well as a great coach and developer of people. So you got a really good one there. I'm really happy to hear that, especially the first time you and I connected. It's interesting. Travis and I, Erik, I'll give you a quick story. We talked earlier today as it relates to having support and virtual assistants and folks that can help you to make things a little bit easier. And in the EOS world, right, delegate and elevate. And if you don't have that resource, have somebody help you out. And the partner that I use does a fantastic job. It's a company called We Are Working. And part of the work they do for me as well is I don't have enough time sometimes to be able to spend on the outreach as it relates to LinkedIn. And I love the EOS methodology. I love a lot of the clients that I have that are on EOS. And I identified a campaign and just really did searches mostly on integrators and visionaries. If they have that title in LinkedIn, most likely they're running on EOS, and an opportunity for me to be able to get some folks and talk to them about this. And that's how Travis and I connected. It was an opportunity for my virtual assistant to have connected with Travis. We had a lot in common, got on a call, and very quickly found out that he was working with Rich Hodgkins, which is great to hear. Had a chance to talk to Rich and said, "Hey, I'd love to have Travis on the podcast," and he was all very excited to try and get your organization and some visibility there. So there's a great way to be able to bring business development, meet some like-minded people, and eventually get that full cycle. Erik, I've got a question for you. I know as we're digging deeper into EOS, your integrator, how long have they been in seat for now?
Well, in the seat about 6 months. I mentioned earlier, I have one member on the leadership team who's been with us throughout the whole EOS journey. That's my current integrator. So she's been working with me for 15 years. It's someone I would trust with my life. And I've been looking for an integrator, or I was looking for an integrator for about 3 or 4 years prior to recognizing that she was right under my nose the whole time. And since we've made that transition, I was sitting in both seats, and like Travis, like I get distracted very easily. I drive the team crazy with all these ideas, and even with something as disciplined and organized as EOS, I still found that we were, there was a lot of tangents and things that were popping up in the middle of the quarter that were derailing rocks occasionally. And I just made came to this realization that we need an integrator. It's holding the company back, and that's the biggest issue. So I spoke with Sasha, my current integrator, who shares an office or shares a wall with me. She's an office right behind me. Put her in the seat 6 months ago, and Rafi mentioned earlier we're growing leaps and bounds, and I think that's a big big part of it. I'm able to do visionary stuff while she's focusing on making sure the trains are running on time and day-to-day stuff is getting taken care of.
And that's where I was leaning to. It's interesting. Before we got a chance to collaborate together and work together, when I found out Sasha was in seat for about 6 months, and then somebody mentioned to me that Erik was sitting in both the integrator and the visionary seat. At least my experiences have been there's a couple of things that don't work very well sometimes. There is no integrator and visionary that you can do both because I think it's two sides of the brain.
Right.
And at least within my own personal business, being on the sales side, one thing that I don't believe works really well is that player coach, right? You hire somebody and you say, hey, you're going to be a manager and you're going to hire and you're going to sell as well. There's a couple of people underneath you. And I don't believe that ever works because either the person's got the desire or the GWC, if you will, to be a manager and they want to continue managing and they fall off on one component, which in this case is a sales and hunting, or they want to keep selling and they're not developing their people, which is a lot of the discussion on our podcast. And I find it, if you're going to do two things at 80%, you're better off doing something at 100% and delegate the rest. And I agree with you. I would have presumed Sasha's been in seat forever on the integrator side, and great move in putting her into that role.
Well, and Gino Wickman talks about this in Rocket Fuel. I mean, the doors that it has opened, both for me to explore future opportunities for the organization, and then Sasha, who knows more about the company than anyone, myself included, right? Especially the day-to-day operation. It's done tremendous things. So I can focus on future opportunities. She can focus on making sure that we're more efficient and more profitable, and it has paid dividends.
Well, the other thing that I think both of you have in common, and the lonely part of being a CEO and realizing that you really can't vent down as much. You need a circle, you need a peer group, you need somebody to be able to help you along. I know both of you guys are part of different peer groups that may help. I'd love to hear a little bit about your experiences and what that organization does for you to become a better leader and kind of clear your mind a little bit and reset expectations. So, Travis, if you don't mind walking me through the organization you're part of and what you do with Convene.
Yeah, you bet. I'd be honored to. Yeah, Convene's a Christian CEO group, peer advisory group that I've been a part of for a couple years now. And the impact that it's had on me personally, I'm sure it's trickled down to the business as well, but you're right. It does become lonely. You do become on an island there, and and both that group and my integrator, have learned that I think every idea that I come up with is a good idea, and it's not. And so it's nice to have some people who go, well, no, I don't think that's a great idea. Or sure, you should make that priority number 93, not priority number 1 or 2. And then again, just the challenges of leadership in general. It's nice to have others that have either lived it, walked it, or can look at it without the emotion that you have naturally if if you're leading others and impacting others, as we all are. It's nice to have others that can share that. So that's been huge for me, and they act as my board of directors when I come up with with ideas, or I want to run through things that are ultimately going to have an impact on on all the elements of my life. It's just great to have people that are looking at it for all the elements of my life, whether it's business, personal, all the things that are intertwined anyway. And that is priceless to me. I could not replace that if I tried.
How often do you meet with this group, and how long have you been with the organization within that organization?
Sure. I'm just over 2 years with that organization now. We have an in-person monthly full day get together. The chair, the lead of that group, has a one-on-one couple hour meeting once a month as well. And then we've also added a quarterly additional, we're calling it an optional one, but that's where a couple of the different boards or groups get together, usually bring in a speaker. So at this point, it's up to say 16 times a year that we're getting together, plus those individual monthly one-on-ones that I have with the chair of the Convene group.
That sounds great. It's all regionalized around the Indianapolis market.
I actually go to Chicago for that.
Oh, you
So
do?
there it is that, but I go up to the Chicagoland or to Chicago for that.
Interesting. Erik, tell me a little bit about your peer group, and I know you just came back from some other things that you do as it relates to kind of building and clarity breaks, if you will, on an excursion. So tell me a little bit about the peer group and what you've been able to do on a quarterly basis yourself.
Yeah, I'm actually in a couple peer groups. I mean, I call them cults, like business cults, and one is Vistage. I've been in Vistage for this will be my 11th year. I'm in conscious capitalism peer group. I think it's been 5 years, and like you alluded to, Rafi, I just came back from a little trip with some other EOS implementers and EOS visionaries, and so yeah, I have my Vistage cult, my conscious capitalism cult, my EOS cult, and I would say Vistage for me has had the biggest impact, at least over the last decade. EOS is a little bit newer. I mean, the group, like Travis said, it is extremely lonely sitting in this seat. I have friends that are very successful, but none of them are CEOs. None of them are running organizations. None of them know what it takes, right, day in, day out. What the what's on their shoulders, right, is totally different than what I have to deal with, right? Um, and it's just great having that resource, having those group of people that get it. And on top of that, I mean, over the last decade, they've turned into just a great group of friends. I mean, I call them a second family. So we meet every month. The meetings are fun. They're just, I love it. We process issues. We get speakers, so we get exposed to all kinds of interesting topics. In fact, this is how I learned about EOS and met our implementer Nate. I highly recommend peer groups for anyone, and it's not just for CEOs and visionaries. Anyone in a leadership team seat should be in a peer group.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah, I agree, Eric. Sorry,
no, go
Rafi.
ahead.
I I am in search for that same peer group kind of experience for my integrator and the other members of our leadership team, because I get so much out of it. It makes me so much better that that's truly where I'm at now. It's had that impact, and I'm trying to find it for the other key team members, starting with my integrator.
Yeah, within the Vistage community, as Erik mentioned, I'm also part of Vistage. Erik and I will be together for a regional one tomorrow. And for me specifically, I've got my own practice. I'm more of a solopreneur, and there's trusted advisor groups for folks like ourselves. And I'm part of a very good group that my chair is Phil Thomas, and he's got a group of about 18 or 19 of us, all fractionals. Somebody that does marketing, someone else that focuses on EOS, fractional CFO, a slew of different folks. And the one thing I really enjoy and I like about that particular group, we get a chance to come in and have commonalities. We're all doing business development, client opportunities, success stories, and all of those is what we share. And you got your own peer group. The other element that's really unique about Phil as the chair that we've got is rarely do you really have the CEO group really have, other than guest speakers, have interactions with some of these TA groups. So Phil happened to be a former CEO, realized, as both of you guys have in your tenure, that, hey, there's times where I don't necessarily have to hire a full-time resource. I can have a fractional CFO or a fractional sales head that can come in here, help me develop things, get me to the next level before I have to go ahead and invest in a full-time W-2 employee. And what Phil's done really well is he's brought a lot of us into his CEO group and said, hey, had I known that these resources existed when I was running a business, I'd be much more effective and be able to crawl, walk, run rather than go from 0 to 100 and hire a high level sales executive without having a sales team behind me. So that's been great for me in Vistage specifically, but I know within the Vistage community, there's also key groups and groups kind of going down the chain a little bit more, and that's been very effective, at least for folks that I've seen. One of my clients, actually, one of your friends, Erik, has a couple of his folks in peer groups and Vistage as well in those key groups, and those have been invaluable for him as well. So let's flip back to the leadership group and developing good leadership teams. Wondering if you guys can give a couple of minutes of thought as to some really successful groups that you've had and diamonds in the rough, like Sasha was right there in your group, and how you were able to develop and get that next leader group. And tell me something, I know we do this in our L10s, Erik, is a success from a failure of some sort or something that didn't go as well and it turned into, hey, this was a great transition for me. and how my leadership team enhanced and got better. In some cases, it's addition by subtraction. In other cases, it just might be right person in a different seat. Maybe I can start with you, Travis. Give me a little bit more detail on your experiences with leadership teams and building and re-architecting leadership teams.
Sure. Well, prior to owning Metal Fab, I like I mentioned, I was in a third party management company where I actually was the reclamation project guy. So the people that were truly having struggles or their businesses were failing, they hired us, and I got to go and evaluate the leadership team more times than not, turn it over completely. So I did that frequently in the past. When I purchased Metal Fab and came into the family business, it becomes a little different. And now it is, everybody's wives and kids, and we're in a small community, and so we really had to kind of buckle down and focus. And like Erik, we've turned over some members of our leadership team since the EOS process helped us highlight where we either had some wrong people in the right seat or wrong people in the wrong seats, and weren't hiring to core values. So we've been able to do that. EOS helped us put every single person in our facility, including our leaders, on an individual development plan. And so we've got a personal, a professional, and a financial approach to those development plans where we're trying to help make you the best you, and we know that our business will benefit from that. Um, and so that's been really successful. I think that's been good. It's connected with across generations for people liking different elements of it, and taking us into a realm where people are coming and want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of that type of an environment, and they can see how they can work their way up and grow into a leader. um, we also use Extreme Ownership, which is a book written by Jocko Willink, and so that's helped us especially break through some of the generational challenges and gaps, and just kind of letting everyone understand you own it. You own it all the way. There are no bad teams. There's just bad leaders, and some people like that. Some people did not. The ones that are still here like that, and so they've bought into it, and that's been enjoyable. Not easy, but it's enjoyable, and it's helped position us to be where we're at today.
I can appreciate the first part of what you said in a prior role, coming in, evaluating leadership teams, and in most cases, potentially turning them over. And at least for my practice and what I do, and we had this discussion, Erik and I, before we started working together. The biggest concern when you bring in, whether it be a fractional or you call them consultants, whatever the role is, the first thing is someone's coming in here, they're going to evaluate me, potentially be able to reduce the number of people here, and I'm going to be out of a job. So there's a lot of resistance with, at least with what I do when I first come in, specifically from a company that may have a sales leader in place. So I don't know how you were doing it, Travis. This is something that I don't get a lot of joy out of. When people ask me what type of engagements work well for you, I said if there's something working and you want me to augment that and build on top of it, all for me. I love that. It brings me joy. My working genius profile shows that as well. If it's, hey, come on in here and we really got to rebuild this entire sales team altogether, well, there are some great folks that would do that, but it just doesn't bring me as much joy. So it's the toughest thing. I know engagements that I go into right away. The first thing is, resistance, this change coming. Someone's going to come in here and cause my job. And once we get past that, it makes it so much more transparent and easy to be able to work in a collaborative fashion.
Yeah, I believe, Rafi, when you started, our sales manager, Will, said, "Who's this guy? Is this guy the Bobs from The Office Space? Do I have to worry about my job?" And it's like, no. He's here to make your life easier.
Yeah, it's human nature, and I think if you're aware of it, which I am, and I've got a couple of EOS implementers that I know really well that were displaced in the corporate world, and they're like, yeah, it's something like what you do was happening in my organization. They brought Boston Consulting Group or somebody in here, did an evaluation of our business, and I was cut. And well, I'm aware of that. So when I go into engagements, I want to make sure that level of comfort is there, and we build this together. And that's been fantastic working with Erik and American Surgical as well. So Erik, same question for you, as you've had a chance to reflect on the years of that you've had under your belt and the various different leadership teams, great success stories, opportunities, and learnings throughout that process.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, and I like to think of this pre-EOS, post-EOS, the biggest issue for us prior to EOS is we never had our core values defined, right? We had, something on the website and maybe the mission statement and kind of just a really high level kind of weak idea of the kind of organization like we want to be and the kind of people we want to work with, but it was never defined. It was never visceral. We never really talked about those behaviors. And that was one thing that we really focused on right out of the gate with EOS. And the realization we had early on was there was a lot of people sitting on the leadership team that we couldn't check all the boxes for core values. So, we had to work them out because they shouldn't have been on the bus. And then another learning is as the company grows and evolves, the leadership team has to grow and evolve as well. And recent example, Rafi's predecessor, our former head of sales, who I love, and we would not be here today without her help too. We had a realization about 4 or 5 months ago that it was time for her to move on. And she's wired to be a visionary, brilliant entrepreneur. That was what she was doing prior to working for us. And, we've gotten to a point where it just wasn't a good fit anymore. And we were perfectly open and honest about that. And we had a great conversation around it. And like I said, we're still talking. I owe her a lot, and I'll love her for the rest of my life. So I think, when you think about it at the end of the day, start with the values, get that squared away, right? Make sure you have people you can check the box with the values. Make sure they're sitting in the right seat. And then the last key piece, and this was the hardest one, and we just got here maybe 6 months ago, was being, talking about Kim Scott, radical candor, being open and honest and being willing to have those hard conversations. I will tell you, in the past, we probably lean more towards artificial harmony, or how Kim Scott defines it as, I guess, ruinous empathy, right? And it's held us back. And now, and I think Rafi, you can attest to this. We have a team. If there's an issue, we're calling it out, whether it be a people issue or a process issue. It is coming out, and we are attacking it. We're not letting that stuff fester because of fear of hurting someone's feelings, and it's helped us tremendously. But we've been running on EOS for 5 years. It's taken us 4.5 years to figure out that being open and honest is kind of a key part of it. If you're not doing that, it's not going to work.
Yeah, like any good leadership team, as any good leader, it's an iterative process, right? You're always going to get a little bit better, either, and there's some other element too, which is, and I observed this with a quarterly I was just at 2 weeks ago. There's some people that are perfectly wired to be individual contributors and work in the organization. Just because you've been there for a very long time or you're in a managerial position doesn't necessarily mean that you should be on the leadership team in the organization, because there's so many other components in there. You got to be talking about we rather than my own department. You got to find a way to realize the vision of the organization and be part of a collaborative team of 5 or 6 leaders. And that's one area that at least I've observed in some leadership teams, where you look around, you're like, there's somebody in this room that I believe the best thing that could happen for them, you'd probably free them as well, is not being on the leadership team. I don't think they've got the desire to do it, maybe the want of the GWC. And unfortunately, with a smaller business in an entrepreneurial environment, the perception is this person's going to be disappointed and feel like they've got a demotion. Meanwhile, you're probably freeing them up a lot. And I think that's one of those very difficult decisions of sitting there saying, I'm looking for a team that's here to be able to build the business. You're great at what you do. Your department's running really, really well. But it may not be a perfectly suited position for you to be on the leadership team. Travis, tell me a little bit about your organization. And we talked a little about core values and uniques, and especially running on EOS. What are some of the core values you've got, and how do you guys live and breathe that every day within your organization?
Sure. Well, I'll back up a hair to what Erik said, and about the core value side of it, and I do think that is the core of turning the corner, or at least setting the bedrock for what it's going to be. And my favorite part of implementing EOS was when we went through and established our core values, and I had next to no input in them. It was so enjoyable to hear the things that I thought we were, and the ways that I thought we treated our people and operated come back out in the team, and become those core values. So our first core value, and it's listed first on purpose, is to be a keen ally. And and we came to that because people come to us with problems, and we believe inherently that there's always an answer. We don't necessarily believe that we always know the answer, but we believe there is an answer, and that we're an ally to work with you to find it. And that was that was what really kicked the momentum going in establishing our core values, was when we kind of pegged that and identified that and started running with that. And we use all of our core values for all the decisions that we make, like all EOS companies do, but we definitely use that one the most. Well, I mentioned there's always an answer. We believe that that's the truth. We just don't believe we always know it. So another one of our key core values is that we're always learning. And we really won't hire somebody if they don't have that inherent capability, skill, and enjoy learning, because the world's changing, and it changes fast. It changes every day. Problems change every day. So we do that, and again, we hire to that one specifically. We're always pursuing better, and believe that we can do things do it the right way. And those have been kind of the key the key tenets, I guess, that we have put in there. A few of my favorites in in the EOS side that have come out, we tagged ourselves as magnets for miracles. So again, as problem solvers, many people come to you thinking that they have something that's impossible. So we like that, saying that we're magnets for miracles, and we find ways to solve problems. And so that's just a few of the elements, the core parts of the EOS component, or EOS core values that we've put out there.
Thank you. So there's two things that kind of come in, and I'm going to come back to you, Erik, because I know we had a good quarterly recently and made some adjustments. I was with a leadership team earlier this week on Tuesday, and this exact conversation came up. And they're relatively newer in their journey. They've had 2 quarterlies and an annual, and somewhere along the way, as we were going through the marketing plan, et cetera, what came up was the core values. And the implementer, to their credit, is like, hey, do you have the right core values? Are these the core values for you? And a couple of them looked at each other. One of them said, well, they better be. They're up on our wall. It took us forever to do that. So we got to keep these these core values. I got a kick out of it. So it was the reason not to change them, was because they were up on the wall. But speaking of change and doing this during the process, we had a nice quarterly recently, Erik, a couple of weeks ago. And at that, I remember what came up was the uniques that we had. And looking at those uniques and saying, hey, what, this has not been looked at in a few years. Are they still what differentiates us in the marketplace? And let's talk a little bit about that experience and what we were able to do on the unique side of it.
Yeah, I think it's the uniques and also the purpose too, right? Our core purpose. And I think what, Nate, our implementer, he does a great job of picking at the VTO, so Vision Traction Organizer. It's kind of the EOS 2-page business plan, right? Very good at picking at, especially the vision page every quarterly. And, the purpose, you kind of think, oh, it's set it and forget it, right? And every quarter we go through, is this still who you want to be? Is this still what you want to do? And we had a great discussion around that about a month and a half ago. And yeah, same thing for the 3 uniques. As the business evolves, right, our uniques evolve. And we were looking, I believe, Rafi, was specifically because we have 2. We have our marketing 3 uniques, and then we develop new products. So we work with a lot of inventors. So we have 3 uniques for why inventors, surgeons primarily, should work with us. And we just had, I don't know how long, we probably spent about a half hour, right, going through the 3 uniques, picking them apart. And I think it's critical, right, that we don't gloss over what is fundamentally probably the most important part of the quarterly, which is discussing that vision page, right, and making sure it is still, are the values still who we are? Is the purpose still what we want to do? we were talking about our niche, right? Is this what we want to do going forward? Is this still the bread and butter, right? I think it is critically important that uh, leadership teams spend time, and you don't have to spend hours, but at least 15, 20, 30 minutes every quarter reviewing that BTO, especially the vision page.
Yeah, my view on those uniques, especially being a sales leader and taking a product that maybe in the marketplace looked at as a commodity and trying to make sure you've got those uniques and differentiators, right? Value, prop, details. But I've had scenarios before where usually when that comes up, I'll usually ask the what, so what? Somebody says, well, we have white glove level of service. I said, okay, let me turn you over to the 7 pages of your competitors, and they've got the same thing there. They've got something similar. And what is unique about why somebody purchases your product or why they do business with you?
Yeah. So
Um,
one thing that, and since day one, I've been self-conscious about is compared to medical device companies, we're small, we're teeny, right? And I want to make sure that our customers, whether they be hospitals in the United States or distributors, we sell in over, I think, 75 countries now on 6 continents around the world. I want them to know that, yeah, we may be small, but we are big enough, right, to take care of you, and we make world-class products. So when you look at our 3 uniques, one important one to us is somewhere around the world, our products are used every 3.3 seconds, right? 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, right? We are in 800 hospitals in the United States, right? Like I mentioned, we're in 75 countries on 6 continents. So yeah, we're not a big medical device company like Medtronic or Stryker or Boston Scientific, but we can take care of you, and we've been around, right? We know what we're doing, and I think the 3 uniques for us, both from marketing our current products and establishing relationships with physician partners to develop new products, it's critically important because it cuts out all of the BS, right? And we can start the conversation there, and they have at least a high level idea of, okay, you know what? I can work with these guys. I can trust them.
Well said, Eric. And I'm not going to ask you the next question because I think you just gave it to me, and very passionate about that too, which is what differentiates you. What's different about American Surgical Group? But I'll turn it over to to Travis for a second, if I can. In the last few minutes we have here, obviously a big driver is growing business. Everybody wants to continue growing their organization and their business. Leadership teams are a large component of it. But tell me a little bit about where you see the organization, what your growth trajectory is, and what your plans for growth are right now, and how you're going to hit that North Star, if you will, by getting to your 3 year and 5 year goals.
Yeah. Well, those all that is captured in the VTO, which is such a cool document. For those non-EOS business owners and CEOs out there, you should look at it because it does give you immediate priorities, immediate focus, and it should be continually looked at. Um, in the manufacturing realm that I'm in, which is a little different than Erik. Erik's got a really a cool niche that they deal with. We're making stuff that's not as specialized perhaps, and so it is more commoditized in that front. Um, but that presents a lot of opportunity in that there's not much consolidation in our market. There's not much benefit from scale, and so our growth is to bring other people into our fold, bring the processes that EOS has brought and bubbled up to the top forward, and find other manufacturers that are less than 50 employees. And the average contract manufacturer, sheet metal fabricator in the U.S. only does $4 million in revenue. So we think that we can target some of those, pick up some of those regionally, and really just create a bigger vehicle for all those in our community to flourish. So we've targeted aggressive growth, and it has multiple locations and multiple facilities in different states. We'll continue to add capabilities, and I've been actively doing that. I've been on about the last year. I've engaged a group to help me find off-market, businesses that are out there, people that don't have a succession plan, um, and we're starting to see some opportunity there. But it's also spurning the visionary side of me, which is there's a lot of people that need EOS, specifically in manufacturing, that need leadership. They need answers, and so that's why we're kind of bringing alongside our actual manufacturing capabilities the platform of third party management and going into companies and saying, hey, look, what do you want to sell or do you want to keep operating? How do you want to go about it? Either way, we can bring the core operations, finance and administration, sales and marketing with us and hit the ground running. And so if we do end up buying some of those companies, we'll know the systems they're running on. If not, we'll make them better and stronger. So we're targeting. We've had double digit growth the last 2 years as well. Loved hearing that, Erik, for your sake, that you're off to a great start this year. We would mirror that in a different specialty, but we continue to see people needing a simplified supply chain where they can come to you and ask you to give me all of this stuff and let me bolt it onto my finished product, not, hey, I need this widget and this widget. So that's where our growth is continuing to focus now, is being able to simplify supply chains, own as much of it as we possibly can, and control as much of it as we can. And that's the acquisitions that I'm targeting. And and then we're supplementing that with automation and and technology, like any successful business owner should be doing right now.
I love hearing that, Travis. And I say, when you look at what EOS can do for an organization, it'll make you the acquirer rather than the acquiree. Because many of the companies that, even if it's like for like and it's another $4 million company similar to yours, what I've observed talking to certain clients of mine right now that are also in acquisition mode, the thing that's missing with the companies that they've targeted is the fact they don't have process, structure, accountability across the organization that's already built out. And by investing as well as you guys do in EOS and building that out, you have an engine that you can just add additional pieces into and continue growing if you've got the baseline right. And I usually use, and they're not a specific three unique, but in a lot of sales calls that I end up getting on with clients and with partners is, I say the fact that the company invested in a tool like EOS is a major differentiator. The company's invested time, effort, resources, and a dedication to making sure their processes are documented correctly. They've got accountability built in. The structure is organized, and this makes it different. And why do I want to do business with Travis, Erik, or Jim? Well, you know what? I know that it's not just them I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a system within the organization that they take pride in. And I think that goes a long way as a differentiator for many companies. I get a chance to work with some IT service providers, MSP IT service providers. And again, even though there's differentiators in the marketplace, a lot of companies or clients, the consumer, looks at them as a commodity. And how do you differentiate yourself? And something like EOS is a great one to say, hey, listen, you know what? Everything that happens in here, my mean time of repair or my SLAs and all of these different things are documented correctly. I've got guarantees around them and all those components. So I'll stop right there. And this wasn't supposed to be an EOS infomercial, but a lot of my friends on the EOS side will be very happy to hear that we're spending a lot of time on this. But I really do think it makes a huge difference. And I really appreciate both of you gentlemen jumping on and providing your feedback, your leadership, and your stories associated with running good leadership teams and how you're running your organizations. Any last words you've got, Travis, that you want to leave us with?
You know what? There's a quote we throw around at Metal Fab a lot. It's from Chuck Yeager. It said, "At the moment of truth, there are either results or reasons." And so EOS has helped us do that. Leadership is the key to that. So I just send many blessings out to all those fighting the good fight, and wish everybody good luck and good fortune.
Great. And Erik, how about you with the last word here before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would say, and I think Simon Sinek calls it the infinite game, and don't look at business as a matter of wins and losses and a grind to some goals in the distant future. Just wake up every day, look at it as an opportunity to do better in the world, and just make sure you're having fun doing it. And if you do that, I'll tell you, it's going to make your life that much better.
Erik, what's the EOS life, right? What are the components there?
Yeah, you want me to list all like 20 of them?
No, do what you like. Get paid.
Yeah, right.
Get paid
with people you love.
With people you love and make an impact, right? So it's and I to be honest, for the first time in my career, I could check the box in all those areas. So it's just a great thing. It makes it a lot easier to get out of bed in the morning and come in every day.
Well, I'm excited and very happy to have had two very good leaders on the call. I'm glad we were able to collectively get our thoughts together. And thank you so much for your time and your attention, and have a great day.